The Sinister Secrets of a Cursed Child. 7 unexplained whispers revealed in 1871 that haunt us all. The rumors were thick in the air of Maplewood Street, swarming around the abandoned church that loomed like a dark sentinel against the twilight. Children knew better than to stray too close, their laughter quickly silenced by the eerie whispers that curled through the air. Some say it's the cursed child, they would say, eyes wide with fear. Lily, a single mother with worries as heavy as the skies, brushed those tales aside. Yet every night, the chilling breeze whispered secrets chilling enough to freeze the marrow in her bones. Just that morning, Lily had lost her job at the bank. The bills loomed large, shadows blending with her growing anxiety. At night, she rushed between 2 part-time jobs, haunted by a sense of inadequacy. She glanced back at her children, Jake and little Emma, and felt like a ghost, quietly trailing their lives while they dreamed sweet dreams. But Jake, perceptive beyond his tender 10 years, had stopped sleeping. "Mom, I hear strange voices at night," he would whisper, eyes wide with fear and exhaustion. His words sent shivers down her spine. Sometimes she would dismiss his fears as the childhood imagination, but as nights dragged on, the shadows in their home deepened. Cracks appeared in windows without cause. Toys shifted on their own, invitations for darkness in otherwise innocent play. That old church felt closer each day, like a predator lurking, waiting to strike. Panic gripped her heart as Jake's fears morphed into something tangible, something she could no longer ignore. Then came the night when everything unraveled. At the stroke of midnight, Lily found Jake standing at the front door, eyes glistening with terror. "Mom, they're calling me," he screamed, so close to panic she couldn't help but hold him. The chill, creeping through the room, felt monstrous, suffocating. The whispers grew louder, a desperate plea that clawed at her sanity. She had to know what was happening. So, guided by maternal instinct, she set out to confront the past that still haunted her neighbors. Knocking on door after door, she unearthed chilling stories of a lost pastor and whispered betrayals that echoed louder than the rustling leaves outside. How could a community bury such grotesque secrets? The fear in her heart grew heavy, dragging her deeper into a web woven from darkness. Still, she couldn't shake the chill creeping up her spine. It felt invasive and full of dread. As night fell again, Lily returned from work to find their home in chaos, the front window shattered like a broken spell. Her heart thundered, dread pooling in her stomach. "Jake! Emma!" she yelled, the silence that answered her bone-chilling. Panic seized her chest as she raced down the hall, memories of whispers swirling like smoke. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jake was gone, the room empty and cold. The shadows seemed alive, closing in as Lily's hands trembled with dread. She recalled the old stories of the church and the specter of a cursed child. Panic flashed through her mind, igniting the memories of whispers. The echoes grew louder, pulling her toward the ominous building. The night air thrummed with tension, urging her feet to move, urging her to confront whatever evil lingered within. As she stepped over the threshold, the darkness swallowed her whole. The whispers crescendoed, revealing the truth behind her fear, an ancient curse woven into her very community. The hallowed walls echoed with lost laughter, intertwining with the sinister. Whispers, mixing echoes of her son's voice with dread. Lily stood on the precipice, heart hammering in her chest, as the final secret unveiled before her, leaving her teetering on the edge of terror, unsure if she would ever leave the church alive. The air inside the church felt alive, charged with dark energy that made every hair on Lily's neck stand on end. The whispers swirled around her like fog, growing louder, more insistent, urging her deeper into the suffocating shadows. Her heart raced as she stumbled forward, the chill of the floor seeping into her bones. "Jake!" she called out, her voice trembling as it echoed against the stained glass that cast grotesque shadows upon the crumbling pews. Time stretched, each second stretching into eternity, but there was no answer. Just the whispers they whispered of betrayal, darkness, and secrets long buried. Memories clawed at her stories passed down in hushed tones. A voice, haunting and familiar, beckoned her closer. "You have to find him. You have to know." Lily's breath hitched. The thought of what might have happened to her son sent a surge of adrenaline coursing through her veins. She had to push through the dread. She couldn't let the darkness win. As she moved deeper into the church, she passed remnants of worship, a dilapidated altar, a cracked cross hanging perilously above her head. Each step stirred the dust of the past, and she felt as if she were walking through memories, each breath laden with despair. The air thickened with sorrow, sucking the light from her mind. Suddenly, something caught her eye, a flicker of movement in the corner of the room. In a half-light, she saw a figure, a child, small and familiar. Every instinct screamed in alarm. Was it Jake? Closer she approached, hope clashing with fear as she drew near. "Jake?" The name slipped from her lips, a fragile prayer. But as she reached out, the figure dissolved into shadows, slipping through her fingers like smoke. "No, Jake!" Panic surged, clawing at her throat. The whispers morphed into laughter, high-pitched and tortured. Lily looked around, disoriented, her pulse thrumming violently in her ears. No more games. She needed answers, and she needed them now. She peered into the dark corners, desperately searching for any sign of her son. "What do you want from me?" she shouted, voice echoing through the empty church. The laughter quieted but did not cease. Instead, it transformed into a low, chilling chant, words she couldn't decipher but felt burning in her chest. A faint glow flickered from behind the altar, drawing her closer. She pushed aside an old, tattered cloth, revealing an altar adorned with dusty relics. Among the forgotten, a small, red box sat, its lid slightly ajar. Slowly, she approached it, sensing the whispers ramping up to a fever pitch, drowning in her resolve. Lily hesitated, time freezing. The box seemed to pulse, alive with secrets waiting to be unleashed. As she lifted the lid, the air around her felt as if it had grown heavier, the whispers intensifying to an unbearable volume. Inside lay a collection of small, crumpled paper's letters, stained with age but not with time. With trembling hands, she retrieved one. "Beware the child of the church," it read, and with those words, the ground beneath her feet began to tremble. Before she could comprehend the meaning, the whispered laughter transformed into anguished screams that pierced the air. In a whirlwind of chaos, the church responded, shadows scaling the walls, twisting, writhing. And amid the terror, a familiar voice emerged from the cacophony. "Mom, help me!" Jake's cry echoed, closer now, piercing through the layers of fear like a beacon in the darkness. Lily felt her heart lurch. She had to choose confront the growing horror wrapped around her or chase after the last shred of hope that illuminated the darkness. As she stood at the crossroads of fear, she clenched the letter, eyes steeling with resolve. She stepped deeper into the church, ready to uncover the truth lying beneath the whispers. But what she had yet to discover waited in the heart of the shadows, and it hungered for a choice the kind that could shatter her soul forever. Would she dare to find out what lay within? Lily's heart raced as she dashed toward the source of Jake's voice, each step feeling like a battle against the encroaching darkness. The shadows twisted around her, almost reaching out with icy fingers, teasing her resolve. The walls of the church seemed to close in, their oppressive weight pulling at her sanity. "Jake, where are you?" Desperation laced her voice, barely recognizable even to her own ears. She elbowed past tattered pews, reminding herself of the love that pushed her forward. As she inched closer to the pulpit, the warmth of Jake's voice seemed to flicker like a dying flame, close yet maddeningly distant. The dim flicker from the candles on the altar caught her eye, casting ominous shadows that danced like spirits released from a long slumber. Panic clawed at her throat, each whisper reverberating with a chant of betrayal. "Mom, help me." His voice pierced through the shroud of chaotic whispers. It sounded clearer this time, almost pleading. Ignoring the thick fog of fear threatening to suffocate her, Lily forced herself to move faster. What if she couldn't find him? What if she was too late? The thought sent a cold wave washing over her, filling her with an urgency that crashed against the dread suffusing the church. Lily grabbed onto a beam, steadying herself, her breathing shallow and rapid. She stepped past the altar where the air was thick, almost suffocating. With every stride she took, shadows followed, lurking just out of sight as though they were alive. The glow from the candles brightened momentarily, illuminating an archway behind the altar. Her breath hitched as she spotted what looked like a narrow staircase descending into darkness. A chill scuttled up her spine. Was this where Jake was? Did he go down there? With resolve surging through her veins, she approached the stairs, the whispers intensifying sudden, sharp warnings mingling with laughter that chilled her blood. Something lurking below wanted to keep her from descending, wanted to keep her away from Jake. "Jake!" she called again, summoning every ounce of courage. She stepped onto the first step, feeling the wood moan beneath her weight, the sound reverberating through the church like a warning bell. "Help me, please." His voice was more urgent now, almost a sob. Lily's heart shattered inside her chest. She couldn't afford to hesitate. She forced herself down, each step heavier, more electric, the air thickening, beckoning her deeper into a void that promised nothing good. At the bottom of the stairs, an old, wooden door stood ajar, revealing a small room, dimly lit but filled with an unbearable presence. Shadows flickered across crumbling walls, scattered papers strewn about like fallen leaves. The whispers here were different hushed conversations layered with malevolence, secrets demanding to be unearthed. She stepped closer to the door, heart pounding in her ears. "Jake, are you in there?" The air around her felt thick and oppressive, as if even the walls were listening. "Mom." His voice flowed like a warm breeze, yet it was laced with confusion and fear. "Help me, please." With a rush of adrenaline, Lily stepped through the doorway and was immediately struck by a dizzying wave of emotions and memories not her own, but echoes of those who had come before. Lost souls. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind her with a thunderous bang, plunging her into darkness. The flickering light from above vanished, leaving her in a void filled with the weight of despair. Lily pressed against the door, panic rising. She could hear Jake's voice louder now, but tinged with something darker, an undertone that sent shivers racing down her spine. "Mom, you need to leave, they want you to." "What were they?" A shiver of dread curled within her gut, tightening like a noose. Lily turned, feeling the shadows close in, pressing against her, blocking the only way out. Just as fear threatened to swallow her whole, a deep growl rolled through the room, powerful and menacing. It pierced the veils of darkness. Lily couldn't breathe now. The whispers transformed into a cacophony of warning, merging into one overwhelming chant. "Leave while you still can." Panic surged in her throat, and she searched for her son. Time was slipping away, the shadows drawing nearer, hungry. Just as she braced herself for what lurked ahead, the ground trembled beneath her feet. And then silence, but it wasn't just silence. It was an unsettling quiet that screamed danger, a prelude to something horrific. What had she stoked by entering this chamber? As the darkness thickened, a new voice arose, a low, growling laugh that curled her toes in terror. Lily was no longer in control. She had uncovered the heart of the church's malevolence. "Welcome, child," it said, reverberating through the silence, the darkness quaking around her. "You'll meet your son soon enough." With those words echoed in her mind, she felt the darkness envelope her, swelling with questions that clawed for answers. But in seeking the truth, Was she prepared to face her own nightmare? Lily's chest tightened. The voice echoed around her like a sinister lullaby. You'll meet your son soon enough. What did that mean? A shiver ran down her spine, the shadows pulsating as if they sought a way in. She spun, the darkness thick around her, and pressed against the door, her heart wild with terror. It mocked her audacity. She was trapped in this void as much as Jake was below. Jake! She screamed, the word ripping from her throat. Silence, an unbearable, oppressive silence. The shadows twisted and morphed, inching closer, whispering with voices so low she could almost hear them. Leave, leave, each word was a claw, digging deeper in her mind. An icy tendril brushed against her cheek. She turned sharply, a gasp escaping her lips, but there was nothing. Just shadows. Just the weight of their stare, hungry and taunting. Help me, Jake's voice cracked, infused with desperation. Mom, please, there it was again, swirling in the darkness, an echo of every child's nightmare. How long had he been trapped down there? Where are you? She cried out, her voice breaking. I'll find you. I swear. The low growl morphed again, deepening, resonating with a twisted joy. You think you can save him? His fate is sealed. Like the others, do you wish to join him? Lily stumbled back, eyes wide with disbelief. No, I won't let that happen. The anguish in Jake's voice gave her life. Her hands fumbled over the walls, desperate to find something, anything to anchor her. Finally, her fingers brushed against something cold and metallic. A handle. Heart racing, she pulled. It didn't budge. She pushed against the door, a frantic rhythm building within her. Adrenaline pulsed through her like wildfire, igniting her spirit. Let me out. The shadows writhed. You've come for him, but you will only become another vessel. Another whisper, the laugh, erupted, a chorus of malice that sent tremors through her body. Stop it, she shouted, gripping the handle harder, her knuckles white. I want to be a part of this. With one last, furious effort, she slammed her shoulder into the door. It shuddered, then cracked open just wide enough for a sliver of light to slice through the darkness. She rushed toward it, leaving the grip of the shadows behind. But as she stumbled into the center of the room, what she saw froze her in her tracks. Papers littered the ground, and upon them, grotesque sketches of lost souls, each face twisted in agony. Above, the room pulsated like a heartbeat, shadows coursing with some malevolent energy. The flickering light above seemed to beckon her closer, revealing the altar covered in strange markings that shimmered with an otherworldly glow. Mom, help! Now Jake's voice echoed within her, not from the darkness, but from one of the scrawled faces on the paper. Despair clawed at her throat as each drawing began to morph, revealing tormented images of children. Was he one of them? No, she screamed, realizing the truth. They were all trapped, lost in torment, waiting for someone to join them. I won't let this happen. I will fight back. As if awakening from slumber, the darkness surged, crashing like a tidal wave around her. The presence looming beyond the shadows was fierce and alive, pulsing with the same energy binding the lost souls. And with that realization, she stood her ground, summoning every ounce of courage she had left. You can't have him. You can't have any of us. But laughter echoed around her, dark and menacing. The shadows writhed, and then the hesitation in the room cracked with an intensity that shook her to her very core. She was not alone in this fight. A figure began to emerge from the darkness, but this time it was not the church that held the key, it was the child's spirit. But it wasn't Jake who was this newcomer. And what truth about Jake lay hidden in the depths of the church? She waited for nothing less than reckoning. Now she had to prepare for the inevitable face-off beneath the church's malevolence. The figure stepped forward, its features slowly materializing from the shadows. It was a child, small, frail, with hollow eyes filled with both sadness and rage. Lily felt her breath hitch. The child had the same tousled hair as Jake. It couldn't be, but when their gazes locked, the connection hit her with a rush, a fleeting image of Jake, helplessly trapped under the weight of darkness, crying out to her. "Who are you?" Lily managed to scream, her voice cracking under the pressure of dread that enveloped her. The child smiled, but it was a smile that carried no warmth. "I'm him, and I'm not." The words dripped with sorrow, mixing with the shadows surrounding him, extending their cold fingers toward her. "I'm a part of this place, just like all of them." "Jake!" she cried, trying to push past the horror. "What is happening? Where is he?" The child raised a hand, and the world around them flickered like a faulty television, revealing parts of the church hidden in darkness, walls bleeding shadows, forgotten hallways echoing with laughter long silenced. "He is lost, like the rest, all those innocent souls." The hollow eyes dangled between a flicker of hope and despair. "You have to help him, before they take you too." Voices whispered in the darkness, melding into an incoherent symphony of despair. Shadows twisted as if echoing the child's torment. "Choose wisely," they hissed. "Your fate is at hand." Her pulse quickened. "What do you know?" The child stepped closer. She could smell the dust and decay clinging to him. "They need to be freed. You must uncover the truth suddenly." The altar at the center began to vibrate, and the markings shimmered with an eerie hue, pulling Lily's gaze. The energies coiled tight, cold energy swirling beneath her skin. She felt a pull, a distortion, as memories flooded her mind, flashes of sorrow, cries for help. "Fill the void. Break the cycle." The child urged, reaching for her, fingers trembling. "Stop. If you're part of this too, how can I trust you?" "I was like him once," the child's voice lowered, cracking. "I was lost and still am." "We can't do it alone. You must find the key." Before she could react, the shadows lashed out with ferocious speed, engulfing the child. "You will join us," he cried as the darkness swallowed him whole, leaving only a silence that screamed. Lily gasped, heart hammering in her chest. "No." She staggered back, retreating toward the altar. The markings flashed dangerously, and for a moment, she comprehended Jake's spirit was trapped in the very fabric of this place, the echo of a sacrificial past clawing to be set free. He wasn't just another victim. He was part of a larger scheme, a cohesive horror tied to the innocents thirsting for resurrection. She could feel the chilling presence returning, thicker than ever, feeding off her fear, growing stronger by the second. "I want let you take him," she shouted into the swirling gloom. Suddenly, the room exploded with energy, darkness twisting into a cyclone around her. "Join us. Join your child." The whispers howled, drowning out her thoughts. As the shadows advanced, closing in on all sides, visions of Jake filled her mind. His laughter, his smile, his heartbeat. She felt a new resolve harden in her chest. She wouldn't allow this to consume him or her. "Just one false move," the lurking voice warned, "and you'll be part of this nightmare forever." And as the ground trembled beneath her feet, a plan sparked to life. If there was a key to save Jake, she had to find it before the darkness broke her spirit like glass. But what if it meant confronting the truth about herself? The revelation sent needles of dread across her skin. Was she ready to unveil the horrors buried in her past, or would the shadows win? With a heart pounding like a hammer, she gripped the edge of the altar, ready to dive deeper into the abyss. What did the truth hold, and could she survive the unveiling? The altar pulsated beneath Lily's fingers, the cold energy coursing through her as she tried to steady her racing heart. Each breath felt heavier than the last, weighed down by the grotesque, churning shadows that beckoned like a siren's call. She clenched her teeth, fighting the instinct to flee. If she ran now, what would become of Jake? The darkness would claim him, and he would be lost forever. "Think!" she hissed at herself, the echo of her voice swallowed by the oppressive silence. She needed to focus. There had to be clues hidden in this church, remnants of truth buried in the walls. The child's words clung to her thoughts like spider silk, fragile yet binding. Find the key, but where? The flickering shadows seemed to close in tighter, taunting her with whispers that brushed against her ears, taunts of her failures, of the many times she had felt powerless. The air thickened. Shadows twisted and lunged, draping around her, urging her to succumb to despair. "Don't let them win," she whispered fiercely, taking a step towards the altar. There had to be something here, something that could shed light on this darkness. She dropped to her knees, her fingers tracing the strange carvings that glimmered under the dim light. Runes and markings, twisted into shapes that felt ancient and alive. "Jake, please," she urged softly, her voice barely audible, but filled with desperate hope. "I want to let this take you." As her nails dug into the dirt, a sudden chill coursed through her, a pulse of energy that shook the foundations of the structure around her. The shadows shrieked, angry at her probing, and the silence shattered. Lily's heart leaped to her throat as the altar erupted with a blinding light, the carvings igniting like fire under her touch. "Lily, you must listen," came a voice, deep and resonant, reverberating off the walls. She looked up to see an apparition materializing from the blinding glow. A figure draped in intricate robes, its face obscured by a shadowy hood, loomed over her with an urgent presence. "The cycle, it must be broken." "What do you mean? What cycle?" Lily stammered, attempting to rise, the heat from the altar warming her skin against the encroaching chill. "Every child that has suffered, every soul trapped here this church, is a crucible." The figure reached out a skeletal hand, trembling slightly. "You are connected, Lily. You must decide whether to embrace the truth or live in fear. The key lies within you." "Within me?" The words echoed back at her, thick with disbelief. "How can I possibly save them? Save Jake?" The figure moved closer, the light illuminating its features just enough for her to see compassion etched in its expression. "You have the strength. The power to confront those horrors is yours. Use it." A montage of images flooded her mind, Jake's laughter, his tears, shadows stretching over his small form, suffocating him. Her heart twisted painfully as the memories spilled, a surge fueled by love and desperate determination. Could she face her demons to free him? As if sensing her turmoil, the shadows whispered one last time, a haunting chorus of lost souls. "You will suffer the truth, or you will suffer in silence." "No, I want to let this end in silence." Lily screamed, feeling that fire flare within her. Suddenly, the altar trembled, a crack running through the stone like a lightning bolt. The shadows shifted and swirled around her, morphing into swirling faces, cries of anguish filling the room as they closed in with malicious intent. Lily could feel their despair, seeped with each anguished scream. The dance of fury and desperation pulled her closer to the brink of panic. But amid the chaos, she felt the steady pulse of the altar under her fingers, the warmth pushing against the cold. It resonated with her heartbeat, a silent conductor awakening something deep within. "Break the cycle," she whispered, and with every ounce of courage she could grasp, she closed her eyes and focused on the truth, the key hidden in her past, buried under layers she had ignored for too long. What would it reveal about her? With both fear and resolve surged through her, she loosened her grip on the altar, preparing to confront whatever darkness was waiting on the other side of her memories. Would she be strong enough to face the key, or would it lead her deeper into the very abyss she sought to escape? A deep rumble echoed from the altar, pulling Lily from her gathering storm of thoughts. She felt the energy pulsate, a fierce heartbeat intermingling with her own. It was almost as if the church itself was alive, breathing in rhythm with her fears and hopes. The light from the altar flickered, casting monstrous shadows that twisted grotesquely on the stone walls. With every breath, she felt the weight of the gaze from the figure, still hovering, still urging. "Decide now, Lily." It urged, the urgency in its voice a sharp blade through her haze of confusion. "The truth awaits, but it demands sacrifice." Sacrifice! The word rolled through her mind like a storm. What was she willing to give up? Her childhood? Her innocence? The thought made her stomach twist. She could already picture it hadn't her life been a series of sacrifices ever since that precarious moment when Jake had vanished into this nightmarish realm. Sacrifice, she murmured, feeling powerless against the crush of shadows tightening around her limbs, urging her to relent. But then, the faintest echo of Jake's laughter broke through the dark, a beautiful bell chime against the wall of despair, reminding her why she had to fight. Jake, she whispered urgently, her resolve hardening. He was at the heart of everything, the one salvation she could grasp from this horror. Bracing herself, Lily turned her focus inward, delving deeper into the recesses of her memories. The moment she had so desperately tried to forget surfaced, jagged and raw. She blinked against the flood of images: the schoolyard, the laughter of children, the day they had played hide and seek. Then came the shadows lurking, the whispers of danger she had pushed far back in her mind, the dark figure in the corner watching, always hungry. No tears stung her eyes, but she forced herself to confront it. She had buried this pain, hoping it would go away, but it hadn't. The figure from her memory emerged, its features shadowy, yet achingly familiar. You've haunted me all these years. Grief for the past washed over her, filling the cracks in her heart. The altar flared brighter, as if responding to her anguish. The figure was merging with the shadows surrounding her, transforming into a storm of grief, pain, longing, loss. It surrounded her like a crushing wave. Face it, the apparition commanded. Face this darkness and forge your own strength. A burst of clarity struck her as the alarm bells of panic rang in her head. She needed to break the cycle, to shatter the fears woven through her soul like festering vines. But could she truly confront the very source of her terror? The shadows constricted tighter, clawing at her mind with fragments of thoughts. What if she wasn't strong enough? What if she failed? What if she lost Jake forever into that void of despair? No, she screamed, almost shaking as she grappled with her emotions. I won't let fear decide my fate. With a surge of defiance, Lily lunged forward, stretching her hands toward the altar. The warmth surged through her palms, a flicker of hope igniting within the shadows engulfing her. Each moment felt heavy, yet thrilling, the power of past choices mixing with her present resolve. But just as she felt the shift, a sinister laughter rolled through the air, deep and mocking, sending chills racing down her spine. You think you can break free? Lily's heart raced, feeling that darkness swirl around her, thick and suffocating. If she took this leap, what horrific truth awaited her? An answer that could crush her spirit lay just ahead, lurking in the shadows that radiated from the altar like a sinister sun. Do it, the apparition shouted, its voice now almost frantic. The key is near. With one last, gasping breath that seemed to carry the weight of all her fears, she pressed on. Light erupted around her hand, and fiercely, she gripped the altar. What would she uncover? As the shadows screamed, a chilling realization pierced her mind, a secret waiting to be unearthed. Would she have the courage to unearth it, or would she be engulfed by the very darkness she sought to escape? The choice was hers, but as the light dimmed, the shadows slinked closer. What awaited her in the depths of her own truth? The moment her fingers brushed the cool stone of the altar, a shockwave coursed through her. Light flared, and shadows danced wildly around her, clawing at her back like desperate hands reaching for the last sliver of hope. Lily gasped as the energy surged like electricity, blinding her for a moment, but the overwhelming illumination quickly gave way to a darkness blacker than any night she'd ever experienced. What was happening? She stammered, her voice tremoring in the oppressive silence. The atmosphere shifted. The air grew thick with a menacing weight, and the shadowy figure was suddenly at her side, its presence both suffocating and omnipresent. She could almost feel its cold breath against her neck as it leaned closer, whispering words that threaded through her thoughts like poison. Open your eyes, Lily. Open your senses. The truth is waiting. And then it struck her, the fragments of her memories twisted, merging with the oppressive power emanating from the altar. Images flickered like a broken film reel in her mind. She saw faces, familiar faces. There was Jake, smiling under sunlight, blissfully unaware of the darkness that awaited. His laughter rang out again, echoing in the recesses of her heart and mingling with the suffocating whispers. "Help me, Lily, please, Jake," she cried, forcing herself to confront the knot of fear tightening within her chest. "I'm coming." But the shadows responded, wild and chaotic, swirling in a malignant frenzy. "You will never rid yourself of us," they hissed. "You are forever marked." Before she could pull back, a vision exploded before her, blood-red letters scrawled across the altar, each one pulsing in time with her scared heartbeat. They formed words dark, forbidden messages she could not understand but felt deeply etched in her soul. Each glyph stung her, a brand of guilt set deep. "You are nothing without us," the figure hissed, wrapping tendrils of shadow around her wrists. "Join us. Reveal your deepest fear." Lily's heart thundered in her ears, and the weight of the apparition pushed down, nearly suffocating her. Bits of laughter mixed with distant screams danced around her, distorting into a cacophony of despair. "You let them take Jake." "No," she screamed back defiantly, yanking herself free from their grasp. "I didn't. I was trying to save him." The shadows recoiled, momentarily confused by her fierce resolve. In that heartbeat of hesitation, determination ignited within her. She forced her hands against the altar, the bright blaze of light blazing back to life as she summoned her strength. "I want to let you control me." And then, in an unexpected flash, the shadows revealed their fear. Their grip began to loosen, and as her heart rate steadied, the altar responded. Light poured forth with a deafening eruption, throwing the darkness back like a tide receding from a storm. But even as she stole that glimmering victory, doubt crept back in. What if the truth she uncovered was worse than the horror she knew? What if knowing Jake's fate meant losing him forever? "Make your choice, Lily," echoed the voice, a shriek of desperation reverberating in the now illuminated cavern. The shadows writhed and shrieked, aching to pull her back into their cold embrace. Will you embrace the truth, or will you live in this torment forever? Just then, the most vivid memory surfaced, Jake reaching out towards her, and she could hear him, faint but clear. "Trust yourself. Fight for us." She gritted her teeth, adrenaline coursing through her veins. The moment of decision drew near. Would she grasp the flaring truth, or let the shadows swallow her whole? As the altar began to crackle with energy, a violent echo resonated through the stone wall surrounding her, a voice from a past not fully buried. Something ominous stirred within the shadows. They were more than just remnants of fear. They were alive, and if she didn't act quickly, they would take her down with them. With a surge of power she never knew she had, Lily drew a breath and yelled, "I choose the truth." But as the light enveloped her, spiraling wildly, the shadows howled in fury. What terrors would she awaken by bravely facing what lay hidden? The walls of the church trembled as a terrible truth began to unfurl. And before she could understand the glimpse of what that meant, the ground beneath her feet cracked open, engulfing her in darkness. What awaited her in that abyss? Would there be salvation, or a labyrinth of horrors worse than she ever imagined? Falling, the descent felt eternal, a suffocating silence swallowing her whole. Lily braced herself for impact, but the darkness seemed to stretch and pulse, wrapping around her as if alive. She tumbled into a void where sound faded to an echo, and light was not even a memory. And then she landed not on the hard stone she expected, but in a soft, chilling mist that enveloped her ankles like ghostly fingers. The shadows were far from gone. They swirled around her in tendrils of darkness, whispering secrets she could almost grasp but could not understand. Panic rose in her chest, a desperate need to escape this horrid pit. Lily, the voice trailed off, hollow and haunting. It was Jake's voice, yet distorted as if coming from a long-forgotten dream. "Can you hear me? Jake?" Her voice broke, thick with fear. "Where are you?" "I'm here," he replied, but it grew faint, lost beneath the howling of the shadows. You must find me before they claim you. Heart racing, Lily pushed through the swirling mist, each step forward punctured by the icy grasp of fear clawing at her. Shadows darted in and out of sight, like nightmarish phantoms playing out some grotesque game. They were toying with her. Suddenly, the fog parted, and a shape materialized ahead of door, old and worn, splintered wood and rusted hinges. The air around it buzzed with a magnetic pull. Lily felt drawn to it, as if it held the answers to all her questions, yet the shadows whispered warnings. Do not approach, you are unworthy. Shut up, she yelled, pushing through the fear and doubt. I want to let you stop me. As she reached for the doorknob, she hesitated, sensing the weight of the choice. Would she dare open it? Behind it lay the truth she sought, or perhaps a deeper pit of despair. Clutching the knob, she twisted it. The door creaked open slowly, and an acrid stench assaulted her senses, as if death itself resided within. Beyond the threshold lay a dimly lit chamber, walls covered in dark, swirling patterns that seemed to pulse. On the floor, a swirling insignia formed a massive, intricate symbol that thrummed with a sinister energy. Welcome, Lily, came the silky voice of the shadow that had taunted her. It emerged, far more defined now, its form towering and menacing. You seek the truth, yet truth is often a shackle. Lily's heart raced as she pushed past the initial wave of fear. Where's Jake? What have you done to him? Oh, he is here in a sense, the shadow hissed, a mocking smile creeping across its faceless visage. He's south part of this place now, and so too will you be if you choose wrong. What do you mean? What do I have to do? The figure leaned closer, and for an instant, Lily saw flickers images of her life, twisted and darkened each betrayal, each fear coming together in an angry crescendo. Face your sins, Lily. Only by acknowledging them can you save him. The room pulsated, dark energy pressing in around her like a vice. Memories burst through her mind, her hands trembling as she watched the accident she was too afraid to prevent, the biting words she had hurled at family and friends. A cold sweat broke out on her back as she felt the shadows latching desperately onto her guilt. Your torment feeds us, Lily, the entity whispered, its voice horridly soothing. Embrace it. Only then will freedom awaken. No, she barely managed to breathe. I must save Jake. But the walls began to melt, twisting and contorting with her every thought. The swirling insignia on the floor began to glow, pulsating with a heartbeat of its own. In a moment of clarity, inspiration struck. To save him, I must face my darkness. But which sin would it demand she confront first? As she stood on the precipice of her own memories, aware that every choice held consequences, shadows erupted around her, laughing in unison. They hungered for her acceptance of despair. Face yourself, Lily. The truth awaits. The very air throbbed as she felt the weight of those words crush her. Would the shadows finally claim what they sought? The ground rumbled beneath her, and the blood-red letters reemerged, scrawled along the walls, mocking her with every fear she had buried. They were ready to drag her into the abyss of what she'd done. Lily, Jake's voice sliced through the fear. Choose wisely. Time is running out. Would she dare to confront the most terrifying pieces of herself? Was Jake a lost cause, or could her reckoning release them both? The chamber darkened, and as the shadows closed in, an oppressive silence fell, heavy with destiny. What haunting truth was ready to unfold next? A shudder coursed through Lily as she stood on the threshold of despair, the shadows swirling like ravenous wolves around her. Jake's plea echoed through her mind, igniting the fire of determination inside her. She wouldn't let fear dictate her fate. This was her moment to reclaim her son from the clutches of darkness. Face your truth, the looming shadow hissed. Only then can you save him. Lily took a deep breath, the air thick with dread and despair. But the taste of fear faded against the yearning to save Jake. Memories flooded her soul, painful ones, vivid moments of doubt and guilt that had woven through the fabric of her life, leaving stitches of regret. Every failure, every choice that led her down a darker path flared like bright embers in her mind. The burden of her past crashed over her, but from the depths of that despair, she heard Jake again, his laughter, innocent and bright. "Mom!" The sound wrapped around her heart. "Help me!" "No!" She screamed into the swirling void. "I will face it all. For you, Jake." As she stood firm, the shadows pulsed with violent anger. But she was the storm now, fierce and unyielding. She stepped forward, feeling the energies clash against her skin. "I do not fear you," she declared, grasping tightly onto the truth that lay hidden in her heart, the power of love, the hope that had kept her alive. With each step, fragments of her memories surfaced, each one a haunting echo of her choices. Their weight threatened to pull her down, but with every passing moment, she felt the connections to Jake growing stronger, filling the gloom with a breath of warmth. "I was scared," she began, voice shaking but breaking through the whispers, "scared I wouldn't be enough. Scared of failing you, of losing myself." The shadows hissed, recoiling slightly as if her words had stung. "Silence," the towering figure demanded, reaching out with ghostly hands. "Your guilt feeds us, Lily. Embrace it. Join them." "No." Lily's voice cut through the darkness like a blade. "I refuse. I am not defined by my mistakes." The room crackled with her energy, the swirling insignia glowing brighter in response. Faint images of Jake began to appear within the light, their memories of laughter, bedtime stories, kisses at the door. Every cherished moment fed her resolve. "I can't change the past," she whispered fiercely, "but I can fight for the future." As those words spilled from her soul, something deep within the altar began to stir. Light tremored and pulsed, reacting to her fierce declaration like a beacon in the dense fog. "Break the cycle," the shadow taunted, its form shifting ominously. "Face it all, or they will claim you both." "Let them try." Lily shot back, drawing her breath. She had tasted the bitter flavor of regret, but the sweetness of love surged above it all. "I will free my son and all the lost souls. I will not lose him." With that final shout, she lunged forward, slamming her hands against the glowing insignia. The room erupted in a brilliant burst of light, shattering the shadows and the weight of her fears. "Mom!" Jake's voice soared through the haze, clear as day now. "You found me." The brilliance radiated outwards, scattering the wretched darkness like ashes caught in the wind. The shadowy figure let out a screech, scrambling back as the light expanded, illuminating the entire chamber in an ethereal glow. Every anguished face of the lost children danced in the glow, flickering between despair and hope, rapidly shifting toward freedom. Colors swirled around Lily, weaving through her memories, wrapping her in warmth. She could feel Jake there, his spirit resonating with hers until they merged into one vibrant essence. Each fragment of love she had fought for connected them deeper, forging a bond stronger than the darkest shadows. "Together," Jake shouted, his laughter ringing out through the brightness. "We can do this." A wave of powerful energy surged through Lily, igniting a spark of courage deep within. The shadows, once relentless, began to dissolve, light pouring into every nook, banishing their remnants to the furthest corners of the abyss. The whispers of sorrow faded, their grip on her heart finally severed. "Thank you, Mom." Jake cheered, his small laughter ringing clear and beautiful like a fountain of joy amidst the chaos. "I'm here with you, always," she promised him, tears of relief streaming down her cheeks as the last vestiges of darkness crumbled around them. And then, just as quickly as it had begun, the storm erupted into silence. The church dimmed to a gentle light, shadows retreating entirely until only sheer stillness remained. The walls seemed to sigh with release, breathing as if freed from a heavy weight. "Now you're free," Lily whispered. "We both are." Jake's spirit twinkled brightly before him, vibrant and full of life. "You saved us, Mom." As they embraced one another, warmth enveloping their figures, the entire world around them shifted. The ancient whispers that had once haunted Maplewood Street faded into distant echoes, leaving only the sound of new beginnings in their wake. Lily stepped from the church, the doors swinging shut behind them, sealing away the shadows of the past. She could see the sun rising beyond the horizon, its golden light spilling over Maplewood Street, embracing her in Jacan warmth. Together, under the tender light of dawn, they stepped into a new chapter, filled with potential and healing. And as they walked back home, hand in hand, Lily knew one thing. Her love was the greatest force against despair, and together they would face whatever came next. If you felt the thrill of this journey, you need to subscribe now. Don't wait another second to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep these stories alive. We love hearing your thoughts. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And if you enjoyed this conclusion, don't let your friends miss out. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this. Let us keep the fire of storytelling burning together.